Welcome back, everyone, to Wainsider, your home for the deepest dives and most passionate reactions in the world of sports entertainment. Tonight, we witnessed something far more significant than a simple surprise return. We were given a chapter in a story decades in the making. The arena was electric with a familiar, yet long absent, energy, a palpable buzz that could only mean one thing. And then his music hit. The reaction was not just loud. It was cathartic, a collective exhale from a crowd that had been waiting for its tribal chief. There he stood, Roman Reigns, acknowledging the thunderous, "Welcome back," chants with that familiar, stoic, almost regal nod. But we here at Wainsider don't just watch the surface, we analyze the cracks beneath the foundation. The nod was there, the swagger was present, but the eyes told a different story. This was not the invincible conqueror we saw at WrestleMania. This was a man carrying the immense weight of his entire world on his shoulders. He moved with a deliberate, careful cadence, a subtle but telling sign of those injured ribs, a physical vulnerability we are simply not accustomed to seeing in him. Every slight wince was a narrative clue, a reminder that the mountain he has built for himself is a precarious one to stand upon. To understand the gravity of this moment, we must rewind the tape on the entire emotional history of Roman Reigns. This is a man who was anointed, not just by management, but by the very bloodline he represents. He was handed a legacy, the immense power of the Anoa dynasty, and told to not only uphold it but to expand it into an empire. For years, we watched him battle the pressure, the resentment from a fanbase that rejected the chosen one narrative, fighting against a tide of negativity that would have broken any other competitor. His silence during that era wasn't arrogance, it was a deep, focused resentment, a hardening of his spirit. Please like, share and subscribe for more WWE content. He channeled that silent fury, that pressure, into a terrifying new form of power. He became the tribal chief, the head of the table, and he didn't just demand acknowledgement, he commanded it with an iron will backed by the bloodline. That power was absolute, it was dominant, and it was built on a foundation of familial loyalty, or so we were led to believe. The cracks began to show, not from external forces, but from within. The betrayal by Jay, the manipulation by Jimmy, and the ultimate, soul-shattering schism with The Rock. These weren't storylines, they were emotional earthquakes that shook his empire to its core. Each betrayal chipped away at the stoic facade, revealing glimpses of the man beneath the chief, a man who believed his own family was the one thing he could truly trust. The pressure to maintain control, to project strength even as his family fractured around him, has been the defining conflict of his career. So, his return tonight wasn't just about confronting two aggressive challengers, it was about reasserting that power in a landscape that has fundamentally changed in his absence. It was a statement that the table, though damaged, still has its head. He stepped into that ring, the "Welcome back" chants still echoing, and he surveyed the landscape he once ruled. His gaze fell upon Bronson Reed, a force of pure, unadulterated destruction, and Bron Breakker, a young lion whose explosive ambition mirrors a younger, hungrier Reigns himself. He spoke, and his voice, that calm, authoritative instrument, cut through the noise. He spoke of respect, of legacy, of understanding what it means to fight for something real. He wasn't just talking to them. He was preaching the gospel of the tribal chief, a gospel of power earned through tribulation. He acknowledged their physical prowess, their recent dominance, but he questioned their resolve. He spoke of the pressure, the kind that doesn't just bend you, but fundamentally changes who you are. He was looking at Breakker, and you could see the history flashing in his eyes, seeing not just an opponent, but a reflection of his own past self, a raw talent yet to be tempered in the fires of true betrayal. This was the master addressing the apprentice, the king assessing a potential usurper to a throne he built with his own two hands. The tension was a slow burn, a psychological chess match playing out in real time. Reigns, the master manipulator, was trying to get inside their heads, to divide them, to make them see the futility of challenging his reign. Reed, the colossus, stood firm, a immovable object meeting an unstoppable force of ego. Breakker, however, was a live wire, his intensity barely contained, his eyes burning with a desire to not just win, but to conquer the conqueror. The air was thick with unspoken threats, a silent war of wills before a single punch was thrown. And then, the dynamic shifted. A word, a phrase, a perceived slight, it was the spark. Breaker's youthful arrogance clashed with Reigns' seasoned dominance. The verbal jabs became sharper, more personal. Reigns, ever the chief, attempted to re-establish control, to put the young star in his place with the weight of his legacy. But Bron Breakker does not bow, he breaks. You could see the switch flip behind his eyes, the calculated aggression overriding any sense of caution or respect for the legend standing before him. It happened in a flash, a moment of violent clarity that will be replayed for weeks to come. Reigns, perhaps underestimating the sheer audacity of the challenge, turned his back, a symbol of his perceived superiority. And in that split second, Bron Breakker moved. It wasn't a wild attack, it was targeted, precise, and vicious. He didn't aim for the head or the legs, he drove his shoulder like a piston directly into the injured ribs of the tribal chief. The sound was sickening, a dull thud that silenced the arena. The attack was a statement more brutal than any promo could ever be. This was not about winning a match, this was about dismantling a myth. Breakker followed it up with a relentless assault, focusing every ounce of his terrifying power on that single, vulnerable point. Reigns, the pillar of strength, crumbled. He gasped for air, his face a mask of pure, unadulterated agony, a look we have never truly seen on him before. The invincible was made vulnerable, the god was made mortal, all by the hands of a newcomer who refused to kneel. Bronson Reed watched for a moment, a calculating giant assessing the situation, before deciding to join the feast. The tsunami connected not just with a man, but with an era, the impact echoing with finality. The two challengers, temporary allies in chaos, stood over the broken form of Roman Reigns. The image was jarring, surreal. The king was dethroned, not in a main event at a premium live event, but on a Monday night, left beaten and battered in the center of the ring he once owned. The aftermath was a haunting quiet that settled over the arena, a collective shock that replaced the earlier euphoria. The emotional weight of what we had just witnessed was immense. This was more than an attack, it was a symbolic execution. It was the past, present, and future of WWE colliding in the most violently poetic way possible. Roman Reigns, the man who built an empire on family, was left utterly alone, betrayed not by blood this time, but by the brutal reality of the business he commands. Backstage, the whispers are already beginning. The word is not just shock, but a palpable sense of shifting allegiances. There is talk of Breakker's actions being a line in the sand, a declaration that the new era is not waiting for permission to take over. Some are questioning the wisdom of Reigns returning early, of showing vulnerability in a Shark Tank. Others are speaking in hushed, respectful tones about the sheer guts it took to stand in that ring, injured, and face the storm head-on. The most poignant whispers, however, are about the legacy. The Anoa name is synonymous with toughness, with pride, with family. Tonight, we saw the family's standard-bearer broken, not by a rival dynasty, but by an individual with no regard for history, only hunger for the future. What does this mean for the legacy? Does it tarnish it, or does it set the stage for the most incredible comeback story ever told? The pressure on Roman Reigns now is unlike any he has ever faced before. This is a crossroads built on betrayal and broken